The bird you are looking at is the Northern Cardinal. It is one of the most common birds in North America, one of the easiest to recognize, and one of the most familiar neighbors humans have ever lived beside. Its bright red plumage stands out against winter snow. Its sharp calls cut through suburban silence, and its image appears everywhere, from holiday cards to sports logos and state symbols. Because of that familiarity, most people stop asking questions. We assume we already know this bird. We think of it as decorative, predictable, even harmless. But familiarity hides complexity. The Northern Cardinal does not survive because its life is simple. It survives because it makes constant choices under pressure. Every day, it competes for food in landscapes shaped by humans. Every season, it defends territory against rivals that look almost exactly like itself. Every year, it invests enormous energy into reproduction, knowing that many of its offspring will never reach adulthood. Nothing about its life is effortless, even if it often appears calm from a distance. The bright red color that makes the male cardinal so recognizable is not a gift. It is a biological signal, shaped by diet and health, designed to attract a mate. But it also draws the attention of predators. The fact that cardinals remain visible all year is not a sign of comfort or abundance. It is the result of a survival strategy that rejects migration and accepts winter head-on. And the quiet scenes we see at backyard feeders hide a more demanding reality above our heads, one shaped by territorial conflict, selective breeding, learned behavior, and genetic uncertainty. To understand the Northern Cardinal, we must stop seeing it as a symbol of familiarity and start seeing it for what it truly is: a survivor making costly decisions in plain sight. The natural range of the Northern Cardinal covers a broad portion of eastern and central North America, extending south through large parts of Mexico. Within this range, cardinals are most often found in woodlands, forest edges, shrublands, and wetlands, habitats defined by dense vegetation rather than open space. These environments offer a balance of cover and visibility, allowing the bird to forage while remaining close to shelter. Unlike many species whose survival depends on seasonal migration, the cardinal's life is built around staying put. Over time, this species has expanded beyond its original distribution. Populations have been introduced or established in places such as Southern California and Hawaii, regions far outside the cardinal's historical range. This expansion reflects an unusual trait among songbirds: a strong tolerance for human-altered environments. Northern cardinals do not retreat when people arrive. Instead, they adjust. Suburbs, gardens, city parks, and residential neighborhoods provide conditions that resemble the fragmented forest edges the species evolved in. Shrubs, hedges, and ornamental plants create nesting cover, while bird feeders supply dependable food throughout the year. Living near humans, however, is not without consequence. These same environments introduce new risks. Domestic cats hunt silently at ground level. Large windows reflect sky and trees, becoming invisible hazards during flight. Traffic, noise, and constant movement create disturbances that wild habitats do not. Unlike birds that migrate or occupy remote regions, cardinals must confront these dangers daily, often within a territory they defend year after year. The Northern Cardinal's success near people is sometimes mistaken for comfort or abundance. In reality, it reflects behavioral flexibility. The bird survives by adjusting its feeding habits, nesting choices, and tolerance thresholds to a landscape that changes constantly. Its range expansion is not a sign that the world has become safer, but that the cardinal has learned to live where opportunity and danger exist side by side. At first glance, the appearance of the northern cardinal seems simple and familiar. The male is bright red, highly visible, and instantly recognizable, while the female appears more subdued, blending easily into her surroundings. This contrast is not a matter of chance or decoration. It is a classic example of sexual dimorphism, a biological difference between males and females shaped by survival and reproduction rather than aesthetics. Adult male cardinals display intense red plumage across most of the body, contrasted sharply by a deep black mask around the face and throat. This coloration is produced by carotenoid pigments derived entirely from the bird's diet. In other words, red feathers cannot be faked. Their brightness reflects access to high-quality food and the ability to process those nutrients effectively. To a potential mate, this color acts as a visible signal of condition. To predators, it is equally visible. Female cardinals, by contrast, are primarily grayish-brown with soft red highlights on the wings, tail, and crest. The facial mask remains present, but faint, and the overall coloration allows the bird to remain far less conspicuous when perched or nesting in dense vegetation. This difference becomes especially important during the breeding season, when females spend long periods exposed on the nest. Camouflage, in this context, is not subtle beauty. It is protection. Both sexes share the same physical structure. The northern cardinal averages about 9 inches in length and weighs just under 2 ounces. Its body is compact and muscular, adapted for short, powerful flights rather than long-distance travel. The thick, conical beak is built for cracking hard seeds, a defining feature of the species. The raised crest atop the head functions as a visual signal, shifting position to reflect alertness, aggression, or social interaction. The male's vivid red plumage is often admired as a symbol of strength or vitality, but biologically, it represents risk. Bright color increases visibility not only to mates, but also to predators. The female's muted tones represent a different investment, one that favors survival during nesting and parental care. Together, these contrasting appearances reveal how form and function are tightly linked, shaped by evolutionary pressures that balance attraction against survival. The name Northern Cardinal reflects a long-standing human habit of interpreting wildlife through cultural symbols. Early European explorers were reminded of high-ranking Catholic officials, cardinals, who wore vivid red robes and pointed hats. The bird's striking coloration and raised crest echoed that image, and the name remained. In this case, the label did not arise from behavior or habitat, but from appearance and association. The northern cardinal is not alone within its group. It belongs to a broader family of cardinals found across the Americas, each shaped by different environments. In the arid regions of the southwestern United States and northern Mexico lives the desert cardinal, a paler relative adapted to dry landscapes and sparse vegetation. Farther south, in parts of South America, the vermilion cardinal displays an intense red coloration similar to its northern counterpart, but follows a different ecological path shaped by its own habitat. Within the northern cardinal itself, scientists recognize approximately 18 subspecies. These subspecies differ subtly in size, shade of plumage, and regional distribution, reflecting local environmental pressures rather than dramatic visual change. Together, They show how a single species can remain recognizable across a vast range while still adapting in small ways to the landscapes it inhabits. The diet of the northern cardinal is often described as plant-based, but that description only tells part of the story. Adult cardinals rely heavily on seeds, especially those produced by grasses, weeds, and shrubs. Sunflower seeds and safflower seeds, commonly provided at backyard feeders, are particularly favored, which helps explain why cardinals adapt so easily to suburban environments. Fruits and berries also form an important part of the diet, especially outside the breeding season, providing energy when other food sources become scarce. During the breeding season, however, the diet shifts. While adult birds continue to consume seeds and plant material, protein becomes essential for raising young. Nestlings are fed almost exclusively on insects and other invertebrates. Caterpillars, beetles, and spiders provide the nutrients required for rapid growth, turning the cardinal, often thought of as a seed eater, into an active hunter at a critical stage of the year. This seasonal flexibility allows the species to exploit different food sources as conditions change. Despite this adaptability, the northern cardinal occupies a vulnerable position in the food web. Adults are preyed upon by a variety of predators, including birds of prey and domestic animals such as cats and dogs. The risk increases during feeding and territorial displays when visibility is high and escape options are limited. Eggs and nestlings face even greater danger. Snakes and squirrels frequently raid nests, especially when parents are forced to leave temporarily to forage. This constant exposure to predation pressure shapes cardinal behavior. Feeding often occurs close to dense cover, and nests are built in thick vegetation where access is limited. Every meal gathered carries risk, not only for the adult bird, but for the offspring left behind. In this way, the cardinal's diet is tightly linked to its place in the ecosystem, a balance between nourishment and danger that must be negotiated daily to survive. Unlike many birds of similar size, the northern cardinal does not migrate. When temperatures drop and food becomes scarce, cardinals do not travel south in search of safer conditions. Instead, they remain within a relatively small area, often staying within a mile of where they were born. This decision shapes every aspect of their winter survival and separates them from many other songbirds. Winter presents a period of constraint rather than abundance. Insects disappear, daylight shortens, and energy must be conserved. During this season, cardinals become less selective in their feeding habits, relying heavily on seeds and whatever plant material remains available. Human-provided food sources, such as bird feeders, can become critical supplements, but they do not eliminate risk. Cold weather increases energy demands, and a single missed feeding opportunity can have serious consequences. Social behavior also changes with the season. Cardinals that fiercely defend territories during the breeding months become more tolerant of one another in winter. Small flocks form, allowing individuals to forage more efficiently and remain alert to danger. This temporary social flexibility reduces conflict and improves survival odds, but it is not permanent. It is a seasonal adjustment driven by necessity rather than cooperation. Compared to migratory birds, the cardinal's strategy trades movement for familiarity. By staying put, it avoids the dangers of long-distance travel, storms, exhaustion, and unfamiliar predators. In exchange, it must endure cold temperatures and unpredictable food supplies. Feathers provide insulation, and behavior compensates where physiology cannot. Every winter day becomes a calculation of energy gained versus energy lost. When spring arrives, this tolerance disappears. Territories are reclaimed, aggression returns, and winter alliances dissolve. Survival through the cold months allows the cardinal to begin the breeding season immediately, already established in a known landscape. Remaining through winter is not a passive choice. It is a calculated strategy that carries risk, but one that has allowed the Northern Cardinal to persist year after year in the same place. As winter loosens its grip, behavior in the Northern Cardinal changes rapidly. The brief tolerance that allowed cardinals to survive the cold disappears, replaced by aggression and competition. Spring marks the beginning of the breeding season, and with it comes an urgent need to claim and defend space. For a male cardinal, securing a territory is the first step toward reproduction. Territories average about 3 acres in size and are defended vigorously. Males announce ownership through persistent singing and visual displays, using both sound and color to warn rivals. When these signals fail, confrontations follow. Chases through shrubs and low branches are common, and physical clashes are not rare. In suburban environments, this aggression can become misdirected. Reflections in windows, mirrors, or shiny surfaces are often perceived as intruding males, leading cardinals to attack their own reflections repeatedly, sometimes for hours at a time. The purpose of this aggression is not dominance for its own sake. A defended territory signals quality to potential mates. It demonstrates the male's ability to secure food, repel rivals, and maintain control over a defined area. Females observe these interactions closely. Territory defense, along with song and plumage, forms part of a broader assessment of mate suitability. Females are not passive participants. They also defend space, particularly against other females, ensuring access to resources needed for nesting and egg production. While males tend to advertise more openly, females engage in quieter but equally determined territorial behavior. During this period, the landscape becomes crowded with tension. What appears to be a peaceful spring environment is, for cardinals, a contested arena. Every song, chase, and display carries risk. Energy spent on aggression cannot be recovered, but failure to compete can mean exclusion from breeding entirely. In this narrow window, territorial success determines whether a cardinal's genes will continue into the next generation. Not every northern cardinal fits the familiar image of bright red feathers and clear sexual contrast. On rare occasions, individuals appear yellow or pale orange instead of red. This unusual coloration is known as xanthochromism, a genetic condition that prevents the bird from properly absorbing or processing carotenoid pigments from its diet. Although these yellow cardinals attract attention from humans, in the wild, their altered appearance offers no clear advantage and may even increase vulnerability by disrupting normal social signals. Color, however, is only one part of how cardinals communicate. Sound plays an equally important role. Northern cardinals possess a surprisingly rich vocal repertoire, producing approximately 16 distinct songs and calls. These sounds serve different purposes depending on context. During the breeding season, males use song to attract females and to announce territorial boundaries to rivals. Outside of courtship, shorter calls are used as alarms, warning nearby birds of potential danger. Cardinals also use vocalizations to maintain contact with mates and family members. A specific call may signal the presence of food, guiding a partner or fledgling to a feeding site. Unlike humans, birds can detect subtle differences in pitch, rhythm, and structure that distinguish individuals and convey information beyond what the sound alone suggests. Importantly, These vocal signals are not random. Each call carries meaning shaped by evolutionary pressure. In dense vegetation where visibility is limited, sound becomes the most efficient way to coordinate behavior. For the Northern Cardinal, color attracts attention, but voice sustains connection. Together, these traits allow communication to continue even when the bird itself remains hidden from view. Once a pair bond is established, reproduction in the Northern Cardinal becomes a test of coordination and endurance. Courtship does not end with territory defense. The male must continue to demonstrate his value as a partner by providing food and assistance. One of the most recognizable behaviors during this phase is beak-to-beak feeding, where the male transfers seeds or insects directly to the female. This behavior strengthens the pair bond and signals the male's ability to support future offspring. Nest construction is the responsibility of the female. Using twigs, grasses, bark strips, and plant fibers, she builds a compact cup-shaped nest, usually hidden within dense shrubs or low tree branches. Concealment is critical. Nests placed too openly are quickly discovered by predators. On average, construction takes about 6 days, but this effort can be abandoned instantly. If a predator or human approaches too closely during building, the female may abandon the site entirely and begin again elsewhere, losing days of work in the process. Once the nest is complete, the female lays between 2 and 5 eggs. The eggs are pale in color, often white or bluish, marked with brown speckles. Incubation lasts just under 2 weeks and is performed primarily by the female. During this period, she leaves the nest only briefly to feed, relying on the male to supplement her energy intake. After hatching, both parents participate in feeding the nestlings. These early days are the most dangerous. Every trip away from the nest exposes the young to predators such as snakes and squirrels. Despite the risk, constant feeding is necessary. After about 10 days, the chicks leave the nest, making their first unsteady flights into nearby cover. Parental care does not end there. The male continues to feed and protect the fledglings for 2 to 8 weeks, even after they can fly. This instinct is so strong that male cardinals have been observed feeding young of other species, and, in rare cases, even non-bird animals. During this time, the fledglings learn essential survival behaviors, including foraging techniques and social cues. Raising young is not a single event, but a prolonged investment, one that demands time, energy, and repeated exposure to risk. For the Northern Cardinal, survival does not end when a chick leaves the nest. One of the most important skills a young cardinal must acquire is not inherited at birth. It must be learned. Cardinals are not born knowing how to sing. Their vocalizations develop through listening, imitation, and practice during the early stages of independence. As fledglings follow their parents through dense vegetation, they are exposed to the calls and songs of adult cardinals in the surrounding area. The male parent plays a key role during this phase, continuing to feed the young while also serving as a vocal model. Through repeated exposure, juveniles begin to shape their own songs, gradually matching the patterns of their species. Mistakes are common, and refinement takes time. This learning process has lasting consequences. Song quality affects territorial success and mate attraction later in life. A poorly learned or incomplete song may fail to signal species identity clearly, reducing reproductive opportunities. In this way, vocal learning becomes a gatekeeper to adulthood. By the time winter arrives, young cardinals resemble females in appearance, but their behavior is still developing. By the following spring, Those that have successfully learned the correct calls and songs are ready to enter the competitive world of territory defense and reproduction, fully integrated into the social structure of their species. The social bonds of the Northern Cardinal are often described as monogamous, and in many cases, they are. Pairs commonly form long-term bonds, sometimes lasting across multiple breeding seasons. These partnerships involve shared territory, defense, coordinated feeding, and joint care of offspring. From the outside, the system appears stable and orderly, built on cooperation and loyalty. But beneath this surface, the genetic reality is more complex. While cardinals often remain socially paired, they do not always reproduce exclusively with their chosen partner. Males may engage in polygamous behavior, seeking additional mating opportunities beyond their primary bond. Females, too, may mate outside the pair, sometimes with neighboring males. These encounters are brief and discreet, but their impact is measurable. Genetic studies have revealed that approximately 1/4 of cardinal nestlings are not fathered by the male providing care. This phenomenon, known as extra-pair mating, introduces hidden competition into a system that appears monogamous on the surface. A male may invest weeks of effort feeding and protecting young that do not carry his genes, while the true genetic father avoids parental responsibility entirely. This strategy reflects a trade-off rather than a failure. Social bonds provide stability and reliable care for offspring, increasing survival chances overall. At the same time, genetic mixing may enhance diversity and adaptability within the population. In the world of the Northern Cardinal, partnership is not a guarantee of genetic exclusivity. It is a practical arrangement shaped by opportunity, competition, and evolutionary advantage. If a Northern Cardinal reaches adulthood, its life expectancy in the wild averages only about 3 years. This short span reflects the constant pressures of predation, weather, disease, and human-altered environments. Yet under favorable conditions, especially in captivity, where food is reliable and predators are absent, cardinals can live far longer. The longest recorded lifespan of a Northern Cardinal reached 28.5 years, a reminder of how much survival depends on circumstance rather than biology alone. Some of the most misunderstood moments in a cardinal's life occur during late summer and early fall. At this time, observers may encounter a bald or partially featherless cardinal and assume illness or injury. In most cases, this appearance is the result of natural molting. As old feathers are shed and replaced, some individuals lose head feathers rapidly and all at once. The bald phase is temporary, often lasting only about a week before new feathers grow in. Though visually striking, it is usually a normal and healthy process. Because Northern Cardinals are both common and visually striking, humans have long paid special attention to them. Before the early 20th century, they were sometimes kept as pets, valued for their song and color, until laws made this practice illegal. Today, the cardinal holds a different role. It is the state bird of 7 U.S. states and serves as a symbol for numerous sports teams and organizations. Seen daily and often taken for granted, the Northern Cardinal lives a life shaped by pressure, adaptation, and compromise. Its familiarity does not diminish its complexity. Instead, it hides a survival story unfolding quietly in backyards, hedgerows, and woodlands, often right above our heads.